everybody. Welcome back to Gooner Gathering and Arsenal Domination. My name is Gooner Lee Meads. Next to me over there is Don Palmer. Apologies to Jack, who's waiting and wondering where the hell we are. But we are here.
That was entirely my fault.
Yeah, technical difficulties, unfortunately. And unfortunately, we come to you live with the news that Arsenal have lost the cup final to Manchester City by 2-0. Dom, I'm struggling to figure out how on earth I'm going to sum this up. I don't know about you, mate.
Well, I managed to do a 3-minute sum up straight after the game.
Right.
So why don't I sort of give the overview, which is, it was close to the team I expected, bar Eza, who was an unfortunate late withdrawal from the side, or we assume it was late. Obviously, we didn't know he was unavailable. Arsenal kept that one quiet. So the side was strong, with the exception of obviously going with the number 2 goalkeeper. I think that was probably as expected. I understand why Kepa started, right? He has played all the way through. It tends to be what the big sides do. We saw Manchester City play Trafford at the other end. But I felt it was the wrong call because there's a lot of pressure coming into this game on Arsenal. Arsenal haven't won a trophy for 6 years. Everyone expects us to win the trophy somewhat reasonably, but also, the narrative isn't entirely accurate or fair around that. But there is some fairness to that. We have spent a lot of money. We have got a really good squad. And I think in that situation, you start your best player. And I think, the turning point was obviously, the City were playing well at that moment in time, but that was a real horror error, which took the win completely out of us and put it into them. But as I say, Arsenal went strong. I don't think there's many complaints on paper about that lineup. Obviously a lot of big players didn't turn up today, but on paper, I have no issues with that lineup. I don't know what you thought about the lineup.
Well, honestly, the lineup I actually felt quite positive with. I mean, let's go through it all. Kepa in goal. I think we both kind of expected that. Let's not forget that, of course, David Raya and his partner, I think his wife actually, they've just had a baby during the week. So I kind of thought he probably wouldn't play anyway.
Yeah, we messaged about that in the week, didn't we?
We did. Ben White starting at right back ahead of Timber, who we knew was injured. Comments I will get to in just a second. I can see one in there already. Saliba, Gabriel, and Hincapié. I think that's as strong as we could have expected. Saka as captain, Zubimendi, Rice, Trossard, Havertz. Now, I kind of thought, and I suggested that in our group chat, that I kind of thought that maybe with Havertz in the side, might have seen us in a slightly different formation with Gorkarez almost as a 4-4-2 kind of situation. But honestly, I don't think we even had a chance to express ourselves in almost any sort of attacking like whatsoever. Let's say hello to the Hammers Football TV, by the way. Let's see if I can put that on the thing there. Evening, Lee and Arsenal Dom. Just dropping a like. Sorry for you. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you for popping in and saying hello. Really appreciate it.
Very much appreciated. Yeah, it was a tough afternoon in more ways than one.
I mean, one thing we haven't mentioned yet, of course, is the continued absence of Martin Odegaard, which I think we probably both expected anyway, because he's been absent for like 3-4 weeks now. But honestly, so we've gone in first half. There wasn't an awful lot of action to talk about, really. There was a triple save, if I can find it, from Trafford.
Very early on, yeah.
Talk to me about that. And triple chance. This was on the 6th minute. Havertz and Saka trying to get the early breakthrough for the Arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the as we say, we talked about the Arsenal side, but you looked at the City side and thought they're a side that have struggled in all season in terms of through midfield, and at that back line. And that back line today, and I think this has got to be the biggest disappointment, it wasn't tested more, was very makeshift. Kushnerov and Ake, I doubt have played more than a handful of games together.
Yeah.
Nico O'Reilly, I think, is a promising young left back. I wonder if he's going to have a sort of Miles Lewis Skelly type season next season, sort of, that difficult second season. But, he's been good this season, but not brilliant. And Nunes is not a right back, right? Sort of similar to how we play our left back is how Pep plays his right back.
Yeah.
And he thought, these can be got at. We know Saka's got some trickery in him. We've got Havertz and Gyökeres with pace and physicality, and we've got Trossard who can, play some delicate balls round. And early on, the signs were really, really good. We were getting in, they were making some, desperate sort of tackles and what have you. And then we had that chance, and you thought, it's going. I said it to my son I was watching the game with. It's going one of two ways. So either that is going to be a big turning point where City believe, or that is a start sort of similar to Leverkusen where we're going to start constantly knocking on the door. I thought Trafford was excellent in that moment. I'm not going to put too much fault on the players there. All three shots were on target at close range, snapping at them because you haven't got time to sort of set yourself. You've just got to hit it. So I'm not going to put too much blame on the players for missing those chances. I think credit to Trafford there. And it probably was, it was the bright point, wasn't it? It was a good start. It just, I mean, look, you're not playing a scrub team here. They're a side that can get at you. We know they're good, but a big opportunity for Arsenal. Just think, had that gone in, is that a very different game? I think probably yes. I think at that point, City do what we did in the second half when we had that moment.
Yeah, I agree. There is a moment I think we probably should talk about when we were talking in our WhatsApp group about changes potentially in the half time. Hincapié gets a yellow card on Nunes for a late sort of challenge on Nunes. Your thoughts on that one?
It's a yellow card for Hincapié, no question. He's late, a little bit rash, and a little bit unnecessary. I know some people are saying that's a sending off. It's not a sending off.
No.
Not for me. But it certainly was a yellow card, and that meant he was sort of walking a tightrope. So I think it was we saw the change eventually happen. I thought Hincapié dealt really well with it after he did get yellow carded. Actually, he wasn't rash, and he's done it a few times this season where he's been on that yellow card and has played very well afterwards. So yeah, that change I thought was sensible. I forget the other change you mentioned now.
Well, I was kind of thinking even before half time. I'm thinking we really need to miss our first choice goalkeeper. In fairness, and then wasn't Kepa booked for a foul on 50 minutes? I can't remember who the foul was.
It was on Doku. I think he's got past him and he's pulled him back. It's a yellow card. I mean, that's not a denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity for me because the angle is so tight and there's players coming back. But at that moment, I did worry. To be honest, I wondered about the pressure on him, where his state of mind was. I think he's a good goalkeeper, but in those top moments, you think, is there that there? He has had it sort of littered through his career from that point of view. So for a certainty, you wondered there, and that wasn't hindsight because we know what happened a few minutes later. I felt Raya should have started in the build up to this game. Let me be, I did a video on it in a week. I felt that unquestionably David Raya is the better goalkeeper. I understand why Kepa was selected, as I said earlier, but David Raya for me, I mean, he catches that ball. And actually, I didn't think Kepa would play badly bar that incident where he's pulled someone down to that point, but he catches that ball. He may even make that save from Nico O'Reilly for the second. I don't think Kepa did too much wrong there, but Raya just is that bit better of a goalkeeper. Does he make it? I don't know. But I don't think they get that chance in the same way as Raya come and claim that ball. Kepa comes and claimed up. And look, to be honest with you, any goalkeeper at that level should be claiming that ball. Everyone makes mistakes every now and again, but it was a crucial moment in the game. It was a game turning point in the game. As I said, I thought City had momentum in the last 5 minutes of half time. We needed half time at that point. They came out in the same way second half. And at that point, you just looked at the body language, and Arsenal just knew it wasn't going to be their day. Now they've got to be
Mm.
better. They've got to be stronger in that moment. Arteta preparing the substitutions, and obviously City go and get a second. But I mean, it's a howler from Kepa. You know, he's let the side down there. He's not done it on purpose, of course, but it goes
Yeah.
back to that. It was the wrong decision to start him, even though I know why he made that decision. I don't know what you thought on that. Probably,
Well,
I'm assuming similar to me, but
absolutely. And the thing is, like Kepa's played every single minute of the League Cup campaign. I mean, if you look even in the other cup competitions, you know, Kepa's played in the FA Cup, all but a few minutes when he was taken off for the young English kid. But it wasn't a surprise to me seeing Kepa in goal. But what's disappointing is that cross. I think he could have done a lot better with. That is the problem, and that's what probably separates Raya and Kepa is that Raya is undoubtedly a better goalkeeper. Kepa has done a decent job when it's come in, but today on the big stage, unfortunately, it's all gone a bit wrong.
yeah, I agree. And he does have history of doing that. You know, I still, for me, think he is the best backup goalkeeper in the league, bar none.
Mm,
But this is a cup final with it all on the line, and you know he's produced an absolute howler. You know, and he, as
mm,
I say, he has form for doing that sort of thing in the big moments. And you know, like you, I understand it, especially with
yeah.
Raya giving birth in the week. Well, Mrs. Raya giving birth in the week. I don't imagine he did much pushing, but um, but you know, and it
That
is
would be a
in
different story entirely, wouldn't it?
well, I mean, that would be history, right? In
It's
a completely different way. But yeah, you know, as I said, it was game changing that moment.
absolutely was. Good evening, Miss Molina, who's in the chat. Nice to see you there.
Hey,
Thank you
mate,
very much.
I hope you're doing well, and well, probably doing about as well as we are, which is
Not
sadly,
very.
yeah, very, very upset and disappointed after that. But you know, barring that, I hope you're doing very well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we talked about Kepa getting the yellow card, and I certainly felt unsettled very shortly after the second half kicked
Did
off.
you worry he was going to get sent off, Lee, or was it purely just sort of state of mind?
It was a case of he's made a mistake, and if he makes another mistake, I was thinking he's going to be in real trouble. I was thinking that if I was Mikel, I would have taken Hincapié off at half time. And the reason behind that is obviously it was booked relatively earlier on. There's not a lot of difference in terms of quality between Calafiori and Hincapié, in my eyes. And in fact, Calafiori, as previous against Manchester City, if you remember, he
Yay!
scored a goal in his Premier League debut,
I was going
and
to
I,
say an excellent goal at that.
exactly was. But I just felt that we looked a little unsettled, and then when the mistake happened, when it went to 1-0, I'm thinking we're in all sorts of trouble here, and maybe our options were not so grand as we expected. I mean, we're kind of underplaying the fact that Eze and Erdegaard were missing here as well. By the way, uh, I think Eze would have made a tremendous difference in our attacking prowess, perhaps.
Certainly on
I
the form he's in for sure. I mean, for
Yeah.
me on Kepo, I didn't worry about him getting sent off or anything like that, and I didn't really
Mm,
worry about the you know I was more worried about him mentally, but I think that was the concern sort of going into the game. In terms of
mm,
Hincapié, I thought probably we were sensible to start with Hincapié start of the second half
mm,
because you definitely don't want to concede early doors, and obviously we did, but that wasn't on him. But I certainly wanted to see Calafiori introduced relatively early into the second
yeah.
half because I felt that it would give City a different sort of problem, especially when City started well. And I think that change was being prepared. And you know, it may well have been solely because of the yellow card,
Mm,
but I thought it was the right tactical change because Incapio is undoubtedly a better defensive fullback without question um,
yeah.
than uh, than Hincapié. But I felt at that moment we sort of needed to try and take some of the momentum back and shift the game tactically. And I think Calafiori allows you to do that because he is that slightly unknown sort of player. He can sort of, especially in the absence of Eze, I know it sounds daft, I'm talking about a left back being that sort of attacking outlet, that attacking unpredictability, but he is that, and he is such an attacking weapon. I wondered if that might have unsettled City and made us do something different. Not necessarily something City weren't expecting, because I think they were 100% expecting us to make that change at some point relatively early into the second half because he was on the yellow.
Yeah,
But I just wondered, I felt that change was needed from an Arsenal perspective.
yeah,
And that's not to criticise Nkapia, as I say, who I thought actually had a fairly decent game by the yellow card.
yeah, exactly. And here's the thing: I don't even think Arsenal had a chance to even respond to it, because the second goal came relatively quick after that as well. Back post cross from Nunes, finding the same player,
Nico O'Reilly,
O'Reilly,
yeah.
who put it away quite accomplishly, didn't he?
Yeah, very,
Well,
two very, very good finishes from him, to be fair to the lad. He's, he's got, he can be very pleased with his afternoon's work, obviously,
mm,
and a very good performance from him. But as you
mm,
say, I mean, we didn't resettle back down after we conceded that goal. To be honest, as you say, it came very, very quickly, straight on the back of that that first goal, and at that point it was game. I just didn't see a way back. We had to score within 5-10 minutes, and we didn't even look like that was going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, he did make changes. He did bring Jesus on. He did bring Noni Madueke on. But again, like you say, we didn't even look close to getting anywhere near a breakthrough today, unfortunately. And then
no, I mean we
uh,
hit the crossbar late on. We had a header at Trafford. I mean the header at Trafford. In my first instinct was anywhere either side of him, it goes in, and not faulting the header being at him, because it's not easy to sort of direct these exactly. But I looked at it again on the replay. I was like, I think Safford probably saves that either side of him as well, because he didn't have the power on it. The crossbar one was unfortunate because that was a really, really good effort. That goes in, maybe City worry, but as you say, it wasn't the Alamo, was it?
not at all, not at all. And so as we know, it did finish 2-0. My worry is now, what does that do for everything else, mate? I mean, I know we're in a relatively good position in the league, but in terms of momentum and all that sort of stuff, how do you see the rest of it going?
Um, It's interesting because it's going to be tomorrow's video and I haven't recorded it yet. I think, the obvious thing here is one of two ways, isn't it? It either all capitulates and goes badly wrong here,
Yeah.
or Arsenal use it to spark themselves into life. Let's deal with the better scenario first, shall we? Which I
Mm.
think is the more likely. Arsenal season have bounced back from adversity really, really well. We've seen a lot of times where, oh, we should have been 20 points clear by now. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but 10, 12 points
Hi,
clear.
Seb.
I
How
mean,
you doing?
not just him. I mean, we've seen lots of people say it, right?
I know.
And we haven't taken advantage. And there's some truth to that. But equally, we've always bounced back from that really, really well, where we've had those poor results. And I think ultimately, when you look at the Premier League, it is really quite tight across the
Yeah.
league, much more so than in recent seasons. You and I will remember the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, where this was far more common.
Yeah.
You won the league with under 80 points, wasn't a shock.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be under 80 points this season, but that's kind of what happened. And Arsenal, as I say, have bounced back really, really well. Let's not forget we've only lost 4 games this season.
Yeah.
Um, and do they use this now to go, right? Let's make sure we don't feel like this again. Because it is the closest we've come to a trophy, arguably, under Mikel Arteta. Certainly since we entered the zone where I felt we are able to win. Those
Yeah.
first couple of title pushes, I thought it was an amazing, amazing accomplishment if you got over the line there, because the squad wasn't deep enough. Manchester City were better than they are now. now I think we are ready and able to win trophies. Does this rejuvenate them? Does it revitalize them? Alternatively, does everything fall apart now? And in some ways, I think it's a real shame we now got the international break from an Arsenal perspective, followed by a couple of cup games, because really Arsenal could do with a league game here and go, we've still got 9 points, because I think that helps rejuvenate them. Do they use it to motivate themselves to go to City? We have form of doing that. You know, Brentford and Ivan Toney sort of randomly was one that springs to mind, but there have been other examples where we've used it to focus ourselves. But there is a danger it falls apart, and there is a danger of it revitalizes City, that they think, you know, we beat them here, we can beat them again, and if we beat them again and beat Palace, it's 3 points. Let's put the pressure on them. We know what we're doing; they don't. You know, all of those things are real possibilities. So the answer is we don't know. Time will tell. But I still believe that we are at least winning the Premier League. You know, everyone will say if we only win one trophy this season, it's terrible. I don't buy that narrative. I think probably if we won the Carabao Cup today and then didn't win anything else, that's a more viable narrative. But I think if you go and win the Premier League, I think it's still been a good season. You know, winning your first trophy. Gary Neville talks about this a lot, and I know he's not popular, but he does talk about it a lot, about the experience with Manchester United. We hear about Jurgen Klopp talking about it when he was at Liverpool, how many times they got to finals and didn't win the first one, and suddenly they start to come. And other ex-pros have said it as well. I can't think of any off the top of my head. You know, but we need to win that trophy. Absolutely, we do, because you win this, you've got go trophyless this season. Then I think we're in Pochettino at Spurs territory, right? You know, there's no way back for the manager. It would have to be, he's done a really good job, but he can't do that final bit. I don't think we end up there. I do think we end up winning a trophy. I've been on that position all season, you know, through the highs and the lows haven't been that low. I mean, they haven't been that often, but through the whole season, that's where I've been. But as I say, it's a real possibility that we don't end up in that scenario.
Genuinely, I feel like today he was waiting for the ammunition that some Arsenal fans wanted. And, you know, they haven't showed up. They've bottled it. All this sort of kind of nonsense. But like you say, we move on. It's unfortunate in terms of Arsenal that we have to deal with this international break situation. But we just have to get back to it and see where we are at the end of it. And let's hope that our players, who, by the way, as you quite rightly said on your video, we have no control on who goes on international break and who doesn't, because that's the rules, by the way.
I mean, I'm assuming you and Timber now won't go, having missed out today, but
presumably. I know Erdegaard's not been called up for Norway. That's for sure. So
whether he goes out there like he did last time, you know,
he might do. Yeah,
but he certainly won't play. And I think that's the right decision for him, because he's obviously is injured.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Is just being withdrawn from the England squad as well. That is breaking literally in the last 2-3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Breaking news from Dom there. I mean that one came as a surprise to me.
That broke it, but
fair enough. We'll breeze past that, Dom. It's all right. We know the real journalists are here, mate.
Yeah, I let him have this one.
Yeah, but I mean the fact that Eze missed today was a shock to me, and a real shame, because I think he could have done so much better. Let's just have a look. There's another comment who's come in there. That's from Stacey, who says, "Bad night from the lads. More trophies available. She's off. She's going to go and get some sleep. Fair play. I understand that completely." So, that's from Jack. That's from Jack. Got it. Thank you, Stace. So that's from Jack on Stacey's account. I get it. So yeah, definitely. I mean, we could be in worse positions. Just have a look at Spurs. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah. I mean, they've obviously had a bad night. It's sort of the only silver lining out of the day, because undoubtedly, look, and there's no quite getting away from it. But we were poor today, and we deservedly lost that game.
Absolutely,
no question marks about that at all. You know, we were messaging beforehand, like, what are we going to say that's positive? There isn't anything. It's kind of similar to when we spoke after the Newcastle game last season, right, in the semi-final. There isn't a positive from this one. All they can do now is see if they can go on and try and win more trophies next time. But and they have 3 other opportunities still. That is the only silver lining from today. That and Spurs were absolutely useless. But right when you've lost the game in the way we have today, kind of Spurs losing is kind of irrelevant, isn't it? Really, But there you go.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I couldn't say any better. It's unfortunate. My washing machine's gone very, very loud all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was going to say you're about to take off there, but I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I can't do much about that, unfortunately, at this stage.
I mean, I think while your washing machine takes off and you go back on mute, I'll vamp for a second here. In terms of the substitutions, right? So I think obviously Calafiori was the right substitution, and I think we spoke about that from a tactical point of view earlier. The other substitutions didn't overly work. I thought Madueke had an attempt to try and go at them, but at that point it was too little, too late. Mikel Arteta's got his substitutions right in the last few weeks, but I don't think he got these ones right here. I think we should have been quicker after that first goal. Went in, try and just take some of the sting out of it, just by taking a minute or so off the clock with an earlier substitution. And I think that would really, really help. I thought the decision to substitute Gabriel Jesus, and I thought it in the moment was the wrong one. We weren't creating anything. We were missing that spark that Eza or Odegaard might have provided. It wasn't happening for Havertz. I'm not bothered about the selection of Havertz. I understand why. I thought it was a good one from the point of view of, on paper, how you set that up. But Max Dalman, for me, yes, he's a 16-year-old lad. But for me, I think he should have been that substitute instead of Gabriel Jesus there. It wasn't an experience thing for me that was lacking out there. It was just a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of magic, a little bit of the unknown. And I felt that was a substitution got wrong. As I say, Martinelli for Trossard. Trossard was having a bad game. Try and get some pace. But again, probably make that substitution at 1-0, taking the sting out of the game, because at that point, City aren't going to totally sit back and you can exploit the pace and pace of Martinelli a little bit. So I thought the substitutions were too late, and I didn't, while some of them were the right ones, Dalman not coming on for me was undoubtedly the wrong one today.
I actually agree. I mean, with SA being absent, I wouldn't have been totally against Dalman starting, to be honest. I know it would have been a lot to ask from the young lad, but especially with the impact he had against Everton, I maybe feel that he was probably better placed than maybe Havertz was.
Yes and no. So I think the plan really there was with the Manchester City centre halves, as shaky potentially as they were on paper. I think the idea was to get Havertz up alongside Gyökeres as often as possible and unsettle them. So I get that game plan. What I do think, and I'm not sure I'd have started a 16-year-old in the final, but what I do think the benefit of by bringing him on or starting him would have been, certainly more so in the space of him starting, was that Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta are managers that sort of plan and go, this is how the game's going to go. This is how I want you to manage these phases through the games. If this happens, I'm not sure Pep Guardiola spent a great deal of time planning for Max Dalman from the start. He'd been planning for him from the last 20 minutes. And that might have been the advantage that you'd have had there. And this is with hindsight. As I say, I would have gone with Havertz for the reason I just said, particularly when I heard that Ruben Dias was out, which meant it was going to be Ake and Kushyanov. I definitely would have gone for Havertz in that moment. It's not worked. He's not played well. He's just coming back from injury, admittedly. So I'm not going to sort of bash him too much, but I thought that was the right one. But Dalman, as I say, him starting the game does give it a moment of the unknown and the unpredictability, and particularly as he thinks the world's his oyster at the moment. Equally, while Lee sorts out his washing machine, equally, I think what that does as well is put even more pressure on the lad, not on the pitch, but off the pitch, in terms of Arsenal trying to sort of dampen down expectations of him, keep his feet on the ground, keep media and fans' expectations of him on the ground a little bit, because he is still a very, very, very young lad still. And maybe that was a factor in the thinking here. I don't know. But, hindsight says Dalman should have started over Havertz. I think that is hindsight. But certainly, without question, Dalman should have been the sub that came on.
Yeah. I do agree. I do agree, and it makes me sick watching the pictures right now on Sky Sports News. There's old Haaland who barely had a kick during the game with the microphone in his hand.
I mean, he
But
had a few. He had a few kicks. I mean, we've got to remember he's a relatively low touch player,
yeah,
but he didn't really offer too much. I think that would, that would be a fair assessment to say he didn't, he didn't overly cause us problems this afternoon, as in him individually.
yeah. I mean, I, perhaps in the case of the second goal, maybe his presence in the penalty area and then moving out and made a bit of space for O'Reilly looking at the second goal. But again, I'm looking at it as quite as a maybe slightly worse for wear Arsenal fan at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, that's a fair comment, but I also would
Yeah.
look at that and go, actually, does Omar Marmoush make, similar space across the box there? And actually, I just think we switched off in that moment. It was
Mm,
I don't think Haaland is a difference there. I think that was just poor defending from us, to be honest with you. We didn't
yeah.
pick him up, we didn't track him from midfield and right back there. And I think that's the case with that one.
And to be fair, the header just went right past Kepa. It's the first time I've seen it on the replay, and yeah, it's pretty well played. But
Yeah, I wonder just because Raya's reactions are that much sharp. He's got that extra little bit of spring,
yeah, true.
but I think anyone saying that Kepa is at fault for that second goal, I think is incorrect. I think anyone defending Kepa for the first goal is also incorrect.
There you are. That probably sums it up, doesn't it? To be fair, it really was all about the first goal, and probably which set up Manchester City to win this tie. Unfortunately, um, all about how Arsenal pick themselves up after the international break, which unfortunately sort of means that a lot of the lads won't see each other for about a week or more, and then we'll move on. Honestly, I can't even remember. You have to tell me, Dom. What's next on both the sides' schedules?
FA Cup weekend.
FA Cup
We
weekend, right? Okay.
City will face Newcastle, Liverpool, sorry, in the FA Cup at lunchtime, I think it is, and we are the evening kickoff, 8 o'clock at St Mary's. I unfortunately had to turn down a ticket to that game because I am otherwise engaged at my brother's wedding, which is definitely more important, to be fair.
Oh, well,
But
congratulations to your brother.
So I certainly won't be able to watch that game, unfortunately. But
Yeah,
that is definitely the priority for me that weekend. But that is the next time we're in action. We then are in Champions League action after that against Sporting.
yeah.
Um,
That's got to
it,
be a tough game as well, isn't it?
yeah, it's away in Sporting. We saw sort of how Liverpool struggled after the big Champions League game, and that was at home.
Yeah,
We're going to have sort of similar, after that one going into our next Premier League game. After that run, which is against Bournemouth, and it's a lunchtime one on Saturday.
yeah,
We'll have the Tuesday, Saturday, so we've got a few days to prepare, and at least it's at home.
yeah,
But it does make it difficult, particularly if we then got to make sure that players are fit and available for Sporting in midweek, the following week before we travel to City, who will have had the full week preparation for that game because they are, of course,
yeah.
out of Europe, and Palace are still in, so the Palace game can't go into that week.
I got you. I got you.
So
Fair
there we
enough.
go. That wasn't a bad bit of memory. I had to double check the Champions League games, which is what I was vamping for to see which day it was. But
Well
I
done, mate.
remember the fixtures at least.
Good work, mate. Good work. Appreciate you for that, and certainly appreciate you popping on the channel. AFC always is just joined us. Big up. I'm lost for words. What was that performance? I think I said pretty much the same to you on our
I was going to
WhatsApp
say,
group, mate.
yeah. It was undoubtedly a very, very poor performance. I mean, we've covered it. We won't go back over it fully.
No,
It was undoubtedly a really
yeah,
poor performance from Arsenal. The wind went out of them after that goal. I think had they survived that little onslaught, I think another 5 minutes of seeing out that onslaught, and I think we'd have gotten some momentum back into the game, but our heads are completely gone at that moment. And it is that thing, as we were talking about the pressure cooker of this first trophy. It is so important we get it. And I think you get that first trophy, and I think it calms everybody down. And that's that's the biggest disappointment of the day in terms of Arsenal, is that we didn't, because it was a real opportunity to release that pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And you could see how it impacted us in 10, 15 minutes after the goal. And by that point, it was then too late. It was 2-0.
Game over, wasn't it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
but I don't think any player or the manager came out of this game with credit today. I really don't. That's not, I try and be fair, and I'm a relatively positive fan. Well, I am a positive fan. I don't mind sort of saying that someone's done badly if they've done badly. I might provide some context around it, sort of, going back to Aaron Ramsdale days, his only big mistake I can really recall in an Arsenal shirt came days after his partner lost a baby. And I think you had to provide some context for that. Obviously, that wasn't the case for anyone today, but I genuinely don't think anyone comes out of this game with credit from an Arsenal perspective. I can't think of one player or the manager. As I said, I felt the substitutions were too late, and I felt that Dalman instead of Jesus should have been the call.
Do you know what, mate? I can't argue with that at all. The goal went in at 1-0, and then we were struggling from them. They struck us again with the second goal quite soon after that, and then all the wind from ourselves has completely gone, and we're on the floor. So all we can do is try and suck it in, and we'll go again on the next time. FA Cup weekend, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's all there is. You have to. There's no alternative, but it's going to be a long week, or 2 weeks nearly until we play that game now.
Yeah,
it's 13 days until we're next in action, and we could really do it being back in action on Wednesday.
Do it tomorrow. To be fair,
yeah, just get your next game played.
Because the reactions on social media as well are going to be very critical. If I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be a lot more vocal than I probably am right now in terms of saying what I want to say.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's going to be criticism of Arsenal and Mikel Arteta until we land a trophy, right? And I think that is somewhat understandable. I've always been of a view that with where we were, it was going to take some years, but we are at the point of delivery now, and we have been now for the best part of 2 years, as we're getting towards the end of this season, and it has to mean something. I think that the haters are going to hate, and the hate watchers will be loving it tonight, of course. And the only way to shut them up is to win. As I say, I think there is some truth to that narrative, but I do think there is a segment of our own fan base that want that to happen, and just so they can say that they were right about this manager. This manager's done a really good job at this club. The question mark remains, can he do the final bit? That is a legitimate and fair question. And I have no problem with that narrative. And today is an example of, can he get it over the line? We didn't, and we didn't play well. If you lose that game, having had an absolute barnstormer, you've taken it to City and you've lost the game, that feels very, very different to the poor performance it was today and having lost that game. So the questions are legitimate. I think those are the more positive about Arsenal just going to have to suck it up a little bit, because that's always going to be the reaction. It's the way of the world, and there's some legitimacy to it. But I also think that it will go too far in some quarters. But
absolutely,
it's the way of the world.
It's the Taylor Swift reaction, isn't it? Haters got to hate, and we just got to shake it off.
I'm not enough of a Taylor Swift fan to be able to come back on that. I'm afraid.
That's unfortunate.
But everyone loves an anti-hero is about as far as I can get.
Fair enough.
That was it. I think that was her, not Pink.
You came in like a wrecking ball on that one, Dom. So thanks for that.
You exhausted my Taylor Swift knowledge. I can talk about Travis Kelce if you want.
Who?
Her fiance. I don't think they're married yet. He was a tight end for it still is for the Kansas City Chiefs, and a multiple Super Bowl winner. One of the best tight ends in the game, to be fair.
Well, talking of tight ends, I must go because I've got to go and do something. Anyway.
Well, yeah, tight ends were there before the game. After, but we completely, let it go. 10 minutes of the second half.
However, the cold never bothered me anyway. Anyway, this is going completely out of control. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to write this stream off for now. Dom, thank you very much for joining me. We're live on both channels. Dom, what do you have coming up on your channel, mate?
Obviously, match reaction, 3-minute match reaction out now, which was sort of hastily put together in a bit of a daze. Tomorrow there'll be the next 2 days. Probably it will be a different order to as advertised earlier. Probably be a little bit more of a sort of breakdown into what went wrong today, and then it will be how does the rest of the season get impacted by this on Tuesday, unless something major happens tomorrow, which I don't think it will.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Well, coming up on Good Gathering, we'll have a match report from Matt about the Arsenal ladies winning 5-0 against West Ham yesterday. Other than that, AFC always says, I did say Arteta goes there to win. If we win, he goes there not to. Sorry, if we go to win, if he goes there not to lose, then we needed to let them play. Perhaps they didn't play because, honestly, in terms of Arsenal chances, they're probably on one hand, if less than that, and that was all on the 6th minute, and that was about it. So
a couple of late ones, but they were more.
Game was over by then, wasn't it, mate?
Exactly. Going through the motions. I mean, I don't think we didn't. In fairness, I don't think we went there to try and draw and shut up shop at all.
No.
I thought that we started with some intensity. The game then sort of settled down where both sides were figuring each other out a little bit. And I think Manchester City actually deserves some credit for taking some control in the game, which they are capable of doing despite their issues. What we didn't do, and I think it was because I think it was the sort of mental side at that point. I think we knew the game had gone and we didn't react. And that's where I think the disappointment comes in. So to AFC's always point, I think in the last half an hour, I think that's a really fair assessment of it. And I think that's on the players and the manager there for not trying to get forward. I think it was such a body blow to everyone because of the way it happened with such a howler. And that's not to defend anybody, but equally they are human beings. Meant that we lost the momentum, and we got second goal, and that was it. So I don't think we went to try and not win the game, but we didn't do enough to win the game at all, and we certainly didn't push hard enough in that last half an hour to try and get back into the game at all. That I think is a fair assessment, and from that point of view, exactly as he's just said there, that is true of the last half hour. But I don't think we went into the game in that position.
I agree completely, and unfortunately, things didn't go to plan for us Arsenal fans today. See how we react to that in FA Cup week after the international break. Thank Don Palmer from Arsenal Domination on the live tonight. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to both of our channels. Both of us will be back with more content coming back over the next week. Thank you for joining us on this live stream, and we'll see you again next time. Cheers for joining us. Cheers.